Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Burning Wheel on Charismatoac. I'm your host for this game, Daniel, and with me today are Chris, AJ, and Rasmus. Now, for the beginning of this recording, hello Rasmus. For the beginning of this recording, you will not be hearing AJ speaking up because AJ is fixing something in the background, and to not drown out the channel with white noise, she's muted. But she's here, and we'll be talking about what's going on to happen today. So, for those of you who are caught up with the events of the Burning Wheel game, last time marked a kind of like a natural gap point in the story in which we could say like, and now this thing happened, and now we're moving into like a different. I don't want to call it an arc because essentially they will be doing much of the same, like in the same venue of things, but there's a different motivation at play and a different driving goal. So we're electing to have our trade vote this session, as it's been a little while since we started, and now seems a perfectly good time to talk about trades. So for those of you who don't know what trade votes are, which is both of course you guys and to you, our viewing audience, a trade vote is a method in Burning Wheel with which we reward players for the way they play their characters in a mechanically significant way. Right? It's a nod to the way the character is being played and portrayed, as done by everyone at the table. Right? It's a little love letter from us to the character. This is, of course, we know that every role-playing game, you guys, if you're playing role-playing games before, right, you can have character development, and indeed you usually have character development in any and all kinds of role-playing game. This is just like this game attempting to like give that some mechanical push, and for that reason we have this vote where we can add and remove character traits that we seem to think are applicable to that exact character. So to do this, we're gonna do as we always do and talk about the characters in the beginning of the show. But this time we will also be putting an extended focus on the traits. Now this could take anywhere from a short time to a long time, but probably it's gonna take a little while as we stumble our way through this. This being our first time doing this. So, I think we're gonna do. We're gonna go through the characters as we usually do, but we're gonna start from the bottom up. So we end at Minnow. So, Shihao, Rasmus,
Bottoms up.
tell us about your character.
He is a sweet little flower who just wants to make the world better.
All right.
For him.
Yeah, I was about to say. This a sweet little flower, and like he's beautiful. He has a smiling face. His petals are yellow. He pops out of the dirt, going, "Howdy."
Something to that, if
No.
except he's bald by choice.
Sure. All right. So yeah. So walk us through your beliefs, your instincts, and your traits as normal, and then we'll move on to the other characters, and then we'll come back to you, and we'll put a focus on your traits first.
Cool. Alright, so as I told you earlier, I'm considering giving my beliefs an overhaul.
Yeah.
So, would you object to me going, I want to change this to this for them?
No, not at all. So when we change beliefs in Burning Wheel, and I've let you like flip flop around with your beliefs because I want
It's
to.
more like an
be-
update, really.
Yeah, what I feel like I've been doing, and what I wanted to do with you guys and your beliefs was I wanted to allow you room to like to pick a belief you thought like was interesting in that moment. I wanted you to get comfortable in the system before I started talking about like we should really be doing it this way and so on and so forth. And that might be doing it wrong, but that's my logic so far. When we change a belief in this game, normally you can change a belief, but you have to run it past the group first. So we're like, does everyone agree that like this belief is either not relevant anymore, or that like there's no reason to really have this, or it's not liable to come up within the next couple of sessions because we're actually moving in a different direction, right? That kind of spiel. Um, and then when you change a belief, you can if there is like a reason to do it, like hard change a belief and change it to something completely different. Uh, but what we ideally want to see is we want to see beliefs change on the basis of what happens in play. Right? We want beliefs to evolve, or we want the change to happen due to action. Right? Something has happened that triggers a different motivation for the character. So if that makes any sense. With that in mind, what did you figure you wanted to change about She-House beliefs?
So as I said, it's probably more of an update. So hold on tight. I want to change. It is my right to become a powerful sorcerer unlike anything the world has ever seen. Fame is one form of power, and therefore I will establish a cult around my person in order to grant myself the first stepping stone into national fame. I will spread panic in the city among the citizens and bring to know my fear my name. 2. It is my right to become a powerful sorcerer unlike anything the world has ever seen. Someone has been attempting to lay claim to my achievement, and they are clearly unworthy. This cannot be tolerated, and I will find them and end them. To do this, I will gather rumors around town to find out more about them.
Yeah, that's so. This is a good example of that because you're doing what the game says is the right thing here. You're doing the right thing. You're using the same premise, but you're evolving the belief based on the situation. This is good. Um, Pay attention to the last part of the belief, right? Gathering rumors about town is pretty easy, right? It's not really that hard. Like listening for rumors, anything could be a rumor. So instead of listening for rumors, like put more of an edge to your belief and talk about what it is you really want, right? You would gather rumors to what?
Well, I wanted to find out more about them. As I say in the end, I will gather rumors around town to find out more about them. And I figured that was. I couldn't figure any other way to go about that.
Yeah, that's good. So you could, I would say, I would suggest anyway. It's, you can keep this if you want to, but I would suggest you just change it to like, um, I will find out something specific about them, because just information about them is kind of
I
vague,
will find
especially if
out
it's
who they
rumors.
are then.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, that's good.
To
I
find.
will I will learn who they are.
Alright, so now,
Hmm.
do I need to change the rumor part?
You could if you wanted to.
To do this, I will gather rumors around town to find out who they are.
Yeah, you can keep the rumor part if you want to. You could also not have it in there and like leave it open, because the end goal is how exactly you approach the end goal is okay to keep open in this case, right? It's, you want to know
Alright,
like
so I'll change
who they
rumors to
are.
information.
Yeah, you
Cool.
like who they are, where they live, so on, right? You find out who they are, and you
Yes.
can go about doing that in a multitude of different ways. So it doesn't have to be rumor mongering.
Yes. That was the first one. The next one is, um, I guess it's kind of an update as well, except this time it's not the intent that has changed, it's the reasoning behind it.
Hmm?
So I want to change. While my magical might is enough to destroy any mortal foe, I cannot be everywhere at all times. I will attempt to convince the rest of Nicholas' men to spar with me and Minomir to further our fighting prowess. I want to change that to I severely dislike Evelyn and I want to oust her from the organization. To do this, I will step in where she proved unwilling and help train the goons. First thing first, though, I need to get Minnow and the goons on board.
Cool. Yeah,
Hmm.
big fan. Big fan. Okay, that works. That's a good belief, and it's based on like something that happened in the situation, right?
Yes.
So what this tells us about this character and about um, like we pay attention to the fact that being offended by Evelyn in this regard is more important to him in this moment than the other belief was. So that tells us something about the type of character we're dealing with, which is good. Right? It's a viewport to Shiha.
Yes. And I could hear Nikki be ever so delighted by it in the background, so
Hmm.
that's also a plus.
Yeah.
And the last one, I want to change from The knowledge of old hold powers untold. I wish to find and learn new spells, and Mr. Smolak has resource beyond what I do. And we've made a deal that he'll help me find magical knowledge. I will make sure he keeps his end of the deal, and using his help will find the knowledge hidden in Manningwich. I want to change that too. The knowledge of old holds power untold. I wish to find and learn new spells, and I have reason to believe that the beings from beyond the storm holds the key to unlocking more magical secrets. I want to find out more about them, and I suspect Conway knows something. I will make him tell me what he knows.
Interesting. I dig it.
So, any comments before I change that one?
No, not really. I will say as a side comment that like the motivation is good. The motivation for me is what clinches this, because if it had been like the beings beyond the storm are super interesting to me, and I totally want to go and do a comprehensive study of them, like walking around like Steve fucking Irvin in their native territory, that would like challenge the situation and what the other players are writing their beliefs like presupposed on. So that would have to be like a conversation we all had about that belief changing. And if that was an okay direction to take the campaign. But in this case, the motivation for this is I want to learn new spells. So
Yes.
however you figure that one out is totally viable, right? That doesn't have to change the situation. If the situation changes dynamically, of course, then we just accept that and move on.
Of course. But
So-
yeah, those were my new and improved instincts.
Yeah, I like what you did with
Oh,
those.
straight beliefs, not instincts.
Tell me about your instincts.
If weird shit happens, check if dreaming. Pinch self, look at hands, try to read stuff. And respond to threats with intimidation. I've been really bad at keeping that one up. And ask Minomir for advice when you need it.
All right. Those still work just fine. So let's move into your traits then.
I have a beige humility, spoopy, obsessed with ancient magics, catamite, mark of privilege, aura of fear, and gifted.
Cool.
Aside from that, I have a relationship with Daddy and Old Man and Dr. Benjamin Koska, who doesn't like me.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
You are most welcome.
I will move on to Nikki now. So Nikki,
I'll
walk
mute
us
in the
through your
meanwhile.
beliefs.
The time has come for my gang and I to go on the offensive. I will eliminate the fairy dust dealers in this city by taking their turf and either recruiting them into my gang or killing them. I think this is applicable still now. This can be the basis of the coming arc.
Totally.
Quite. My formal agreement with Jahao regarding his use of magic stands, and I shall honour it. I will find evidence of magical relic or supplies for him to find to appease him. Yep, that still sounds applicable. And I've changed my third belief from what it was before. I've changed it to the origin of the bad fairy dust still eludes me. I will ensure Minhamir has the means to investigate the substance should more of it show up. But I suspect that this could be tweaked because I suspect you're going to tell me that there's no way for you to easily challenge that.
Actually, there is. I could very easily challenge that. It just depends on what you define these means as, right? And we've established from Minnow's beliefs that Minnow holds it to be true that to work with this stuff, and he's not wrong, it would be a boon, if not a necessity, to have an alchemy kit, which is a very expensive and specialized and like kind of rare piece of equipment. So getting your grubby mitts on such a set is a worthy undertaking for a belief.
Okay, that's good.
And you could totally like specify the clause for this belief by being like, I will ensure they have the means to investigate the substance should more show up, so I will acquire them an alchemical kit, or so I will form a relationship to someone who has a lab that we could then use, or whatever you wanted to, right? If you wanted to specify like what exactly you mean by having those means, because having the means is kind of vague and leaves the question of is this belief complete in Minnow's hands, which is not necessarily where you want it, right? You want it to be very clear cut when you've achieved the belief.
Yeah. Okay. It'll basically be a case of in my mind, it's basically a case of of Nikki finding out what's needed from Minnow, getting it, and then when Minnow says yes, this is right, then the belief will be considered fulfilled.
Cool. And what's up with your instincts?
Yeah, these I might consider changing a couple of these because they haven't actually been very well employed, as far as I can tell. Never offer mercy to an enemy. I've never been put in a position where I have been able to offer mercy to an enemy and then not done so. Anytime I've faced an enemy, it's specifically either they've had the advantage or they've been running away. So that's not really. I don't think that one needs changing yet, not until I have someone at my mercy to not offer it to them. Instinct 2, everyone's out to get me, so trust no one. I feel I've not really been able to employ this. I've not played it as untrusting as I could have.
I agree.
I feel that I have, so I feel this one could be changed.
Mm-hmm.
What does it change it to, though? I'm not entirely sure.
We can come back to that over the course of the session if you want to. But another thing, like I should have mentioned this actually before we started talking about these beliefs, but during the trait vote, you might lose traits and you will get traits, and as that is the case, you might be inspired by the traits you get to write a new instinct or a new belief. So keep that in mind, that we don't need to like commit ourselves completely to what we have, because it might change as the result of the trait vote.
Okay. That's fine. Okay, and then the final the final instinct is always carry a sharp knife, which I have been doing.
You have indeed. And let's hear it for your traits then.
Character traits are paranoid, odd, nihilistic, and callous. And we have a die trait, which is Louis Wu, may laugh in the face of danger. So yes, anytime I'm confronted with a difficult situation or a situation where I feel my life is threatened, I will laugh like a sadistic maniac. I think, yes, based on what I've just said, it might be worth changing the paranoid character trait or trading in for something.
Perhaps. You can bring that up during the trait vote. You will get the chance to to suggest votes to suggest traits we vote off your character, and then we will talk about that as players.
Okay, that's good.
So yeah, that's what I actually have a note of suggesting that very thing. So that's good. We seem to be aligned in that. Last but not least, Minnow. AJ, are you in a position to drop into this conversation, or will the microphone explode if you do so?
I'm fine.
Wonderful. Welcome to the conversation. So tell us about Minnow's beliefs, instincts, and traits.
You're so boring. You've gone away from saying bits just because we keep giving you shit about it.
I know, right? It's almost like someone kept giving me shit about it.
Yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about. The sassy and sexy lady I met some years ago on town, I should seek her out for another round.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to secure a position and prove invaluable to Nikki. Stealing the cloth shipment was exciting and a rush, and finding the next big score to sell on would give us a huge edge. I should go around town and find a suitable target. I'll of course do what I do best through the rich ladies. They have a tendency to want adventure and talk a lot.
Cool.
And I need to find out what happened to the product, so I need an alchemical kit. I need to eat, and Nico needs money to give me that. Whoops.
Grand. So, yeah, that works. Tell us about your instincts.
If I see She-Hulk getting into trouble, drop what I'm doing and go to his side. If I see someone attractive, flirt. If surprised, draw weapon.
Cool. And
pretty straightforward. Could almost say he's simple-minded. Base humility, and he's spoopy. He has a mark of privilege. He's gifted, so someone put a bow on his head. Obscure aura, and cool-headed. He has a relationship with Harriet Joy. And Dr. Benjamin Koska, who hates him a little less than his brother.
Wonderful. All right. So what we're gonna do now, as part of this trade vote, is the first thing we need to do is one of you three will be the secretary for this trade vote. That means one of you will take note of the trades we're voting on, and we'll keep that written down so we know how the trade vote went.
I can do that.
Okay, so Rasmus, you are the secretary for this trade vote.
Yes, I am.
Yes, you are. Power, right? It's some form of power anyway.
Power!
Unlimited power. Okay. Now, first up is we will talk about traits we want to get rid of. Either traits we don't want for our characters or don't think are applicable for our characters. Now, to do this, the first thing...
May I interrupt?
Yes, you may.
I just want to I'm just quickly making a list of what I need to know. So it's trades lost and trades gained. Is there anything else?
So trades lost and trades gained, trades nominated.
Okay.
Because there will be nominations for traits that we that not necessarily get voted through.
Yes.
So, before we start voting off traits, we should decide on an upper limit for like how much are we voting in. So how many traits will we be voting in today? The feel I get is I'm thinking like we vote one character trait for everyone, and two more traits of that can be anything, right? One character trait and two more traits. That can either be character, die, or call on, depending on what is applicable for the character. Do you feel like that's okay?
One more time. How many?
We vote up to a maximum of 3 traits, and there is enough of leeway here that if someone is nominated for 4 traits that are just perfect, right? 4 perfect traits for that character, we can keep having the conversation either until we decide like which of the 3 traits are we gonna pick, which 3 of the 4 traits are we gonna pick, or are we going to lift the ceiling? But we are gonna we're gonna set out with the assumption that we will be working with 3 traits total, although each character will be nominated for 4 traits.
Cool.
All right. So, first things first is talking what traits do we not want to have for our characters. Do we have any traits that we either don't play to, or that we play against, or that that is not relevant to the character?
Alright, and who did we take? Did we do Shihao first?
I mean, we could just continue with the bottoms up, I guess.
Yeah, it's just easier to go one at a time.
Yeah, we will start like one character at a time. So, Rasmus, do you have any traits you figure like you're playing against, or traits you feel like we should vote on whether or not Shihao shouldn't have anymore?
I do. I'm considering base humility because most of the time he's not very humble at all. It seems to be mostly a thing when he needs to, and I don't think that's enough for a trait.
I agree.
But
I think
I might
base
be.
humility. Yeah, I completely agree. Base humility is something I feel like you're playing against, and I don't feel like it's applicable to the character. So that's one trait. So take note that this is something we're gonna vote on. Any
Yes,
other traits
I've
you feel like
noted minus base.
Yeah.
Not really, no. I mean, I'm guessing the die traits are not up, or
Die traits could totally be up.
what?
Right? It basically.
I mean, the
depends
only
on-
one I haven't really acted on or used is Mark of Privilege, but that hasn't really come up.
Yeah, and I don't feel like
And it's
something
still,
would
you know,
happen.
a part of his.
Like I don't feel like something has happened that would challenge that trait. Right? There's nothing that would
me
remove
neither.
that fact. You haven't been disfigured, for example, like or been made unrecognizable as a member of the nobility.
Nope.
So I feel like that's
Well,
fine.
in that case,
I kind of want to contend with Spooky, because I separate the character trait Spooky from your Aura of Fear. Your Aura of Fear
I
is a
do
very
too.
real thing that we have seen and that we actually very often interact with, at least in the way we imagine Shihao going about his day. But I don't feel like you ever actually invoke Spooky. I don't feel like you bring it up. That like I'm doing this thing and then
I
you
mean,
like embellish on it.
I've definitely, I've tried to. I think a lot of the time when he makes an off-color comment or completely disregards human life is probably an attempt from my side to be spooky, but it might be worth renaming it something else.
Yeah, I feel like this is a trait that should.
I
that
have
should be
been
replaced.
attempting to be spooky.
All right. Yeah, I feel like I'm going to put this up for a vote on whether or not you should keep this. Now, there's a difference between, like, take note here that you brought up base humility and I brought up removing spooky. Now, there's a difference there we should be aware of. So write that down.
Yeah. I've written down remove spooky or minus spooky.
Yeah, like parentheses GM.
Which, yeah. Oh, I'll do that. GM.
Yeah. So
Yes.
You could change it to freebie. That fits him better.
Well, but that kind of thought that you're having there, AJ, is good, because changing the traits or replacing traits is kind of like the bee's knees for this type of vote. So good that you're bringing it up. Let's keep
How
that
would
fresh in our
you?
mind.
How would you go about being spooky then? Because clearly you haven't.
So I would bring it up like in play, as I would do with all traits. I've mentioned this multiple times, right? Like I'm doing a thing. I would embellish on my details, like she I think Shihao wants to be part of this conversation. So I step closer. My face is like shrouded in shadow from my hood, and as I move forward, I move like forward with very deliberate, almost spider-like movement, like very determinedly up, and just stop, and I look at this person with a stare that doesn't say anything, but it's just nailing him to the floor. And what I'm doing here is I'm invoking my spooky trait, right? So I hope this guy is like is affected by this. I would go about it like something like that. So I would embellish on the trait, and ideally, if
And you would say I'm doing this because spooky trait, or would you just do it?
Yeah, I would bring up especially if I thought I would get into trouble, right? If I wanted to, let's say your motivation for talking to this person was, I totally want this guy to help me do something. I want this guy to do me a favor, for example. Then I would be all about like spooking it up and just being like this horrible Halloween nightmare approaching him and be like, I need you to help me, good friend, and then just like rely on my spooky trait to get me into trouble that way, and be like, please, like I would say with lowercase letters in doing that, please GM, disincline this person from helping me, thus creating trouble for me that I need to solve before he helps me. Because if I do that, if I manage to get that through by invoking my spooky trait, I will have gotten in trouble because of my trait, and I will earn fate for it.
And do you want us to be very overt about using traits? Because I think it's more natural for me to just act it out and then kind of assume that you go, oh, yeah, I guess he was kind of spooky. That must be because.
Yeah, make no such assumption. Call it out if you want to. If you're employing a trait, draw attention to it. Because while I try and keep aware of it, and while I try to like take note of, is this trait coming into play? I feel it might be, so I will try and bring that up when we talk Arthur. I am just a single person improvising a story and trying to keep trying to keep hold of 9 beliefs that I want to challenge simultaneously while moving the situation. So I can't always do that. Therefore, as I've mentioned to you guys before, bring it up if you're doing something. Like, don't tell me like, don't just intimidate a guy who's threatening you. Tell me, I have an instinct about threatening this heavily armed person with 5 followers because he's threatening me. This is a horrible idea, but I'm totally intimidating him. Right? Tell me that, because that way it will immediately be brought to my attention that, okay, make a note here. Get fate for putting yourself in trouble. Or get fate for invoking a trait that changes the story. Right?
I shall attempt to do so henceforth. It feels unnatural to me at this point, but I guess once you get used to it, that goes away.
Yeah, I mean, consider it if this helps you in some way. Keep doing what you're doing, describe and embellish, especially based on your traits, right? But think of adding little footnotes like you see in a book, right, where someone has like a little comment at the foot of the page. Do that, but in conversation to me, and be like, I'm being spooky and hoping this is fucking something up for me. And then like you're baiting me to be like, okay, let's see, right? Is this changing the story in any fun way? Are you is your choice to be spooky here changing the story? Because if it is, you deserve fate because you're playing up your character.
Okie dokie. Yeah, anything else you want to nominate then?
Not in this case. So these are all the things I want to nominate about Shihao. Let's move on to nominate Nikki for losing traits, and then we'll nominate Minnow, and then we'll vote on Shihao, Nikki, and Minnow.
And then afterwards, gaining trait?
Yeah. And then after that, gaining reputation.
Okay.
Nikki, your traits. Yes. Do you feel like there are things among your traits that you're playing against, or that you want to get rid of because it's not really your character?
I feel that I think the only one that I feel strongly about, which I've already mentioned, is paranoid. I think that I'm able to portray the odd aspect fairly well, especially when if the die trait Louis Wu comes into it. Laughing in the face of certain death is fairly odd. Nihilistic, I've had opportunities to roleplay that, and callous, yeah. I think I've also been that on a couple of occasions, with only one standout exception. But paranoid, I'm just not fulfilling it anywhere near in a fashion I feel that justifies it being there.
I agree. I think you're. I think that you may be not necessarily consciously, but I feel like you've been playing against that trait. There have been instances where you have elected to show trust or to not act paranoid, despite something definitely setting you up for it. So I feel like that's totally viable. So Rasmus, if you would add that Chris has brought up that we should talk about paranoid.
Already did.
You mentioned odd, that you've been playing that up. I feel differently. I don't feel like I'm seeing a lot of odd from Nikki.
Okay.
I feel like Louis Wu is a thing, yes, but I don't think he's being capital O odd. I don't feel like it's a trait. I feel like it's just a thing he does. And I feel like he's not being very odd outside of Louis Wu, which that trait then encapsulates on its own, and we don't need the odd tag on. That's my feeling.
I was about to nominate odd as well, despite Chris's feelings.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep, that's fine.
So
I've
noted both of us.
Note odd and then parentheses GM again.
I did. I added mine is odd, parentheses GM, me. GM, comma, me, parentheses.
It's fine that you also note you. The important thing is that the important distinction here.
I assume I can nominate stuff. I don't know if I can.
I don't think you can.
We can't nominate stuff about each other to take away.
Yeah, I think me and the player nominate stuff to take away, and then we all vote on it. But the reason I'm making the distinction between you, like the player voting on it, and me, like the player suggesting a trait gets voted off, or me suggesting it, is because if the player says this should not apply to the character, then a simple majority vote will be enough to get rid of it. If I say it should go away, then it needs to be a unanimous vote. It should be noted that you don't vote on your own trait.
Yeah.
Aw.
So, nihilistic, I think so. I believe like it's like
Definitely.
it's at the root of your it's at the root of a lot of what you do, right? Your character is purposefully like doing like the opium plot to his own countrymen because he doesn't give a flying. I feel like we could do to see more of this, but I definitely feel like it's not like you're abandoning this trait. So I say keep it, and Callus, absolutely. And Louis Wu, yeah, there's not been nothing there to... You haven't gone into therapy for your Joker giggle, so I don't think we need to talk about that. So good. And then Minnow. Minnow, let's talk about your traits.
Yes.
So do you have any traits that you feel like you shouldn't have?
Mm-hmm.
Which would that be?
Base humility and spooky. I haven't used any of them.
I'm inclined to agree. You're actively playing against base humility, and I don't think Minnow is spooky at all. I think Minnow is.
Nope.
I think Minnow is actually kind of approachable in many ways, even though he's murderous.
He's not murderous. Just don't step on his toes.
Yeah. So.
Or cross him on a bad day.
Cool.
Or annoy him slightly by looking weirdly at him.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree. Those are not really applicable. We've not seen Obscure Aura in play, but we've not seen anything that would challenge its existence. Nor have we
No
seen...
one have tried reading his aura.
Yeah, and there's not really been like... There's not been an instance where you stuck your hand into the magical fountain and and channeled your power and it exploded forth, and that would like be a basis for saying your aura is no longer obscure. It's in fact like it's clearly visible because like magic has suffused your person. Right? Nothing like that has happened, so there's no reason to challenge that trait. And cool-headed, while we've not actually brought up you making a steel test for your own brother, like there's no need to challenge that either, I feel like. So
I've tried playing him a little more put together than his brother, who flies off in a tizzy quite often.
yeah, and I think that's something we have seen in play. So I don't think there's any need to mention that. All right, so we have nominations for everyone. We'll start at Shihao. Shihao, what are you nominated for?
For removal, I am nominated for removing base humility by myself and removing spooky by GM.
Okay, let's start with base humility. I vote that you lose base humility. What do you vote, Chris?
Yeah, I agree.
What do you,
that way.
So that means it's removed. But what do you vote, AJ?
Yep.
All right, so you can strike base humility. Make a note that we voted and agreed unanimously that needs to go.
I noted who worded what.
Cool. Spooky. I have nominated Spooky for being removed because I don't think we're seeing it in play. I don't think it's really applicable.
Note down that you're for removing it then.
Yeah. So that's my vote. What do you feel, Chris?
Say again?
How do you feel about removing his Shihao Spooky trait?
Yeah, I mean it's been fun, but I think if it assists in the character development, then yes, I'm happy with that.
See, that's not my motivation for bringing it up is I don't think we're seeing it being played. I think we're very much experiencing the aura of fear, which we've like tied this separate story into, right? Of him being sort of cursed by his own abilities.
That's true.
But
I'm thinking about it the wrong way then.
No, Spooky, I don't think we've seen.
In that case, yeah, I agree with that.
What do you feel, AJ?
Huh?
On this topic of Shihao being spooky or not, do you agree that this should be voted away?
Oh. No, just call it creepy instead and it's fine.
Yeah, I think so too. Let's talk about getting a different trait in there instead.
In that case, I'll note as AJ as 4 removing spooky.
Yeah.
In
Alright.
favor of replacing it, that is.
Yeah, so we'll
We could connect it. Groovy.
base
I
humongous.
will add that I want spooky, so I'll have to work to get it back then.
Yeah. And that's totally viable, right? You could work to get it back. You could also nominate yourself for spooky if you wanted to, or a variation thereof that you think will be easier to play into. So definitely. But
Well,
yeah,
for now I'm removing spooky.
yeah, it's not been brought up. So that's all we have nominated for Shihao. Is that the case?
This is correct.
Okay. So Shihao's done. Let's move on to Nikki.
Yep.
First order of business, removing his paranoid trait proposed by Nikki.
Cool. I think we will actually let's have a break here because it's exactly at the top of the hour. Although we've not recorded for an hour yet, this is the top of the hour, so this is a good time for us to put our pause, and we'll come back after a brief break and we'll get into these Nikki's votes. How do you feel about that?
Yep.
Sure.
All right. So we'll be having a brief break. You guys, loving audience, we'll be right back.